Should probably add myself to the stream if I want people to be able to hear me. Good evening, everyone. It is 7 o'clock on November 15th. It is 31 degrees and still freezing cold outside. So where do I begin? I don't know if season 4 had my hopes up really high, that I expected season 5 to come in like a lion, but it really was like a lamb, and I was a little shocked. I went back and rewatched it again today because I didn't take notes when I watched it on Sunday because I wanted to just, experience it. And for whatever reason, I actually cried today during with Casey and Monica during their scene on the porch. Not sure why it hit me differently today than it did on Sunday. So lots of things kind of came up for me during the season opener. A big one for me was the fact that John Dutton is now the governor of Montana. But how does that work? How is it? How can he have his son as the attorney general and his daughter as chief of staff? I wouldn't think that would be allowed, because then there's not really a control mechanism for, agendas, I guess is the way I'm trying to say that. So I don't know. Maybe somebody that comes in tonight or watches this on replay knows a little bit more about the governmental branches of office. Could give some insight as to whether or not in real life would that be allowed? Because again, in my mind, I wouldn't think it would be. But I could be wrong. I also kind of caught a couple things when they did the season 4 recap at the beginning of the premiere that I didn't remember from season 4. Even when I went back and binge watched season 4 last week, there were still things that I missed. And one of the things was, Casey, when he was out on his vision quest, and when he came back and he told Monica that he saw the end of them. So I'm not sure where all that fits in. I mean, they ended last season with her being pregnant. They started this season with her being very pregnant. But then the car crash and the fatal accident. So just thinking about the way TV stuff usually goes, I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, why would they write a pregnancy in if they were going to kill off her character? So I'm wondering if that storyline changed during the COVID hiatus, which I looked it up because I couldn't believe how much Carter had changed. He's like a little young man now. So cool. But season 4 finished filming November of um, November 2020, and season 5 didn't start filming until May of 2022. So it was an entire year and a half in between. So kind of makes sense as to why everybody looks so different. Um, but having written the new baby out of the script almost makes me wonder if there was a failed contract negotiation or something changed for the actress that plays Monica, that maybe they had to write the pregnancy out because they're going to be writing her out of the story. I don't know. What do you guys think? It's just kind of something that popped into my mind as I was rewatching it today and crying my eyes out. I also went back and looked too, because when I watched it on Sunday, I was like, oh, shame on her. She was pregnant and she's driving without her seatbelt on. Um, so when I went back and watched it today, I was like, oh no, she had it on. I think they skipped a part of the scene, like they scene jumped. And I think after the accident, she let herself out of the car to go out and deliver the baby on her own out in the field rather than being thrown from the vehicle. Again, it's just my speculation because they kind of left that that window open. They didn't really explain how it was that, Tate was the only one still in a vehicle after the crash. I definitely see a lot of double dealing, a lot of violence coming in this season. Especially with, somebody as powerful as the Duttons, and like not to mention not just one, not two, but 3 Duttons in a position of power. Um, I definitely see some uh, big, high powerful business people coming in and wreaking havoc in the valley. I mean, we saw that, market equities was already there, but what's going to happen now that he's pulled their funding and the airport can't be um, built, the casino can't be built now. So what's going to happen there? How ugly is that going to get? Looks like Jamie gets into bed with the enemy, quite literally. So that ought to be interesting to play out, since Beth pretty much, has him by the cojones. I loved when she said that too, was that, he was in her prison, but if he didn't follow direction, she'd put him in a real one. Yeah, go. I love Beth. She is a badass woman. Starting to see a lot of softer side to her, though. I'm also trying to figure out, like, what's with all the reflective dreams. Like Beth had a flashback dream from her childhood, and John had one from back when he, first got the land, first took over the land at 34, and having to fight the construction company to not get power lines put on. But What's the deal with that? Is that a foreshadowing thing? Is it everybody's feeling um, I don't know, like need for redemption? I don't know. I don't know what to think of that either. I love seeing that Rip is kind of softening up to quote unquote the kid. Um, or the boy. Do wish they'd call him by name. Um, but again, I think it might get there because when Beth and Rip were talking about, their past, and she was talking about all the time wasted because of her, her being her. Um, she had made the comment about they still need what it took, and I think that is referring back to the baby that was aborted, and that she's feeling that need to be a family with him in order to stay connected. So maybe there is a hope. Maybe there's a chance that um, they will actually accept Carter as their son, even though he's a teenager. I also kind of think in their twisted ways, uh, each one of them has accepted Carter into their family. And I think that became evident, during the accident with the horse, how quickly Rip took off riding toward him. And then, when he was telling John about the accident later, he was more concerned about Carter than he was about his horse. Um, to me, that says he's more than just, a ranch hand. He's not wearing the Y yet, but that's probably because he's still very young. So for my Canadian subscribers and anybody that catches this on replay, if you can tell me, because again, this is my conceptualization of things. When I think of Canadian Place, I think of, RCMP. I think of that Dudley Do Right, the red jacket, the wide brim hat. Um, but that clearly is not what showed up on the banks to catch the horse rustlers. And they were labeled just police rather than RCMP. So for my Canadian people, are they different? Is there a Canadian Police Department and a Royal Canadian Police Department? Are they two different things? I'm sitting here working on my diamond painting, especially since I don't currently have anybody else in here talking to me. So another question I had that I don't know the answer to. I know people in my real world that I could ask. Uh, if none of my subscribers or anybody knows the answer, was the scene with the calf, when the mom had been killed by the wolves. They tied the calf up and carried him back to the barn. And it made me wonder why the calf wouldn't follow the herd on its own. You know, I realized the mom was gone, but it's the same herd that he'd been running with. So it's not like it was, stranger danger. Um, so I don't know if anybody knows cow behavior. I'm not going to stay on too long. I am still, nursing whatever this is. Um, just kind of a process of, all the irons that were put into the fire in this very first episode. So, is Monica being written out of the story? What's going to happen with Jamie and this chick from the big city? Um, are Beth and Rip going to accept Carter as their son? Are they going to adopt him? What's going to happen with Jimmy? I mean, is he going to be here the entire season? Or is it halfway through he's going to go back to the 4-6s? Will the ranch go under the conservation easement and no longer belong to the Duttons? That would be a hell of a thing. It's been in their family for 130 years. Oh, hey, Reckless Grace. Yeah, and that part I know that part of things. And again, I mean, it didn't look like the calf was like a brand new calf, like it had just been born. Um, and the mom had been killed by wolves. So I don't know. There was just a lot of holes in the whole story. At least from, my perspective of things. And my very early on, and when I first started my channel, um, I did a walk around of my property and showed my neighbors' horses and my other neighbors' cows. Um, But one night, it was probably, I don't know, 2 years ago, maybe now, really late at night. And because my husband and we were on in bed already, so it was really late. And the cows were just mooing and mooing and mooing and just like nonstop, which is very different, you know, especially at that time of night. You know, usually they're bedded down and trying to be, you know, not obvious to nighttime predators and stuff. And they just kept going and going and going and going. And finally, I'm like, this just is, it didn't sound right. They sounded different. And so I like put my slippers on, grabbed a flashlight, walked outside, and I came back in. I said, hey, talking to my husband, I said, can you let Mike know he's got some cows out? Like 4 of the calves had slipped underneath the fence, underneath the wire. So they were on one side of the fence and all their moms were on the other side of the fence. And the moms were very, very distressed that their babies were not where they were supposed to be. And they were making one hell of a racket. So, I mean, I know they do bond pretty quickly to their moms. That was a crazy night because it was like, I don't know, it was like 11 o'clock at night or something. It was really late. Oh, no problem. Thanks for stopping in. Oh yeah, see that's the other big question mark. You know, they tried to ditch the collars, you know, put them on the logs, um, and floated them down the river so that they would eventually fall off the logs and, you know, get lost somewhere, and then they wouldn't be trackable as not being on the wolves anymore. But then the one got stuck. So 12 hours of not moving, and it's going to send a signal out to come find it. So I imagine that the next episode, we're probably going to get uh, the game warden visit, figure out, you know, but are they automatically going to come back to the Dutton Ranch, or, you know what I mean? It's like, I can't imagine, because I know there's the one river that runs right through their property. If you remember from a couple seasons ago, the big business guy that was fishing in the river, and Beth came down and read him the riot act about being on her property. But I can't imagine that Rip would release those collars in the river that runs through their property. That doesn't seem logical to me either. Because then that makes them traceable, right? Back to their land and back to their staff. I don't know. Lots of questions, not a whole lot of answers. But then again, it's just the first episode. So we'll see where things go. So like I said, I was just going to do a quick live. I'd stay on longer if there was more people present, but that's not the case. So tune in next week, Tuesday. It originally said 8 o'clock. I moved it to 7 tonight to see how things would go. Next week I'll try 8 as planned. And see if the turnout is any better. But think about what was done in this week and see if there's any other questions that, things that sparked in your mind as creating a new storyline, wrapping up an old storyline, foreshadowing, all that kind of stuff. And then put it in the comments so we can talk about it again. Otherwise, tune in tomorrow for journal making. My normal time, noon o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And don't forget to hit the like on your way out. Thanks for stopping in. Peace out.